Hello, and welcome to the Business 171 Excel class. I will be going over Excel and the parts of the different ribbons. Excel doesn't use toolbars anymore, they use ribbons. I'll be going over the ribbons, which ones we're going to be paying attention to, that is, which ones are the most important for you to learn first. We will also be discussing the components of the screen, as well as some moving around navigation hints, that sort of thing. So allow me to switch over to the Excel, and here is the Excel. Let's talk about the different screen components. These are columns, so right here is a column and this is a row, and every cell, which we know which one is active because of the black box around it, we also know which one's active because it says up here in the name box. The cell has an address. The address is A1. For this one, the address is A1. If I'm clicking down here, notice my address now is D6. So we can move around the spreadsheet by going over to the right with our arrow keys, or our down arrow key and up arrow key. We can also hit the page down key or the page up key. We can also hit Control Home to get to the A1 cell very quickly. No matter where we are, we can hit Control Home. Additionally, we can hit the end and the down arrow key, and that will take us to the very bottom, the very last row. In Excel 2010, there are 1,048,576 rows. If we hit the end right arrow key, and again, this, you don't press them at the same time, it's end, E-N-D, the E-N-D key, you tap that, and then you tap the right arrow key, it will jump over to the very last column, which you can see is XFD. The columns, of course, go from A to Z and then start with AA, AB, AC, and then when it gets to ZZZ, then it goes to when it gets to ZZ, it goes to AA, AB, AC, etc. Now, I also want to show you that when you enter information into the spreadsheet, the end down arrow works a little differently, and I'm going to quickly pull up a spreadsheet. I'm going to say File, Open, and then I'm going to pull up a spreadsheet from my system. Let's go to my system, and I'm going to pull up a spreadsheet called Budget, which I should be able to find in here. Okay, so if I pull up the spreadsheet Budget and I hit Control Home, notice I can hit, if I hit end down arrow here, it doesn't actually go to the very bottom of the spreadsheet immediately. It goes to the end of that range. If I hit end down arrow again, it will go to the bottom. But if I hit end up arrow, it goes to the bottom of the range, and then end up arrow again, it goes to the top of the range. So if I hit end right arrow, you'll see it jumps over to the very last column. So when you use the end arrow keys within a range that's already been set, then it only jumps within the range. Once you get to the end of the range, then it will jump outside of the range. There is a separate video that talks about changing the column widths and the row widths and that sort of thing. I want to stick with the parts that have not been covered in that other in that other one. One of the things is the status bar. Down here in the left corner is the status bar. Notice it currently says ready, but if I click, let's say I'm going to click into the formula bar here as if I was going to change the word salary to salary income, and you'll notice now that it doesn't say ready anymore, it says edit, or in edit mode. When you are in edit mode, many of the functions and features of Excel change or are no longer available. So it's important to know where you are. Are you in edit mode? Are you in a cell? Once you've entered information into a cell, you have to press the Enter key or a down arrow key in order to get out of the cell. If you don't do that, whatever you click on will get added to the end of the cell, because Excel uses referencing for adding formulas to a cell. You'll notice at the top, Excel 2003 used toolbars, but Excel 2010 doesn't really use toolbars anymore. They now use something called ribbons. And so up here at the top, we have a bunch of ribbons. We have the home ribbon, the insert ribbon, the page layout, the formula ribbon, the data, review, and view. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each ribbon and then each group on each ribbon to let you know which ones we are going to be paying attention to and which ones you can completely ignore, because either they're in an advanced class at Excel or they're just not that important that you don't need to know about. So the first file here is not really a ribbon. File is a traditional menu, and you'll notice that's where you save or save as, open a new file, close the file that's current, choose to print. If you click on here, you will notice that you get the print preview right here. Click down here where it says page setup in order to do things like change headers and footers and things like that. I'm going to click on the home ribbon. The clipboard ribbon we're going to use, but I'm going to show you some shortcuts. It's kind of the same shortcuts I've shown you already. Control-C, Control-V for Control-C for copy, Control-X to cut, and Control-V to paste. The format painter you will be using, that's very useful. The font group you'll be using, and the alignment group you'll be using. The numbers group you will be using, that changes the format of the numbers. You won't be using the styles group. The cells group has functions in it you may be using, but again, I'll be teaching you a different way of doing it. The editing group, you will be using many features of the editing group. Going to the insert menu, pivot and table are advanced functions that will be taught in the advanced Excel class, will not be taught in this class. We won't be doing any illustrations. We will be using charts, so you will be creating column, line, pie, bar, and area charts. We won't be using spark lines or filter or hyperlinks. We also will not be using anything in the text group here. Most especially, I need to warn you, do not use the header and footer in the text group. I will show you an alternative method of getting there. When you click on header and footer, it changes your view, and it's not compatible with freeze frames, and there's many problems with it. It's very buggy, so do not use this header and footer. It is not a good idea, and we will not be using the symbols. Going to page layout, we will not be using themes. We will be using the page setup extensively. We can use page scale to fit, but I tend to use the page setup dialog box instead of the scale to fit or the sheep options. We won't be using the arrange groups. Under formulas, everything here except for the define names is available elsewhere, so we'll be using them, but we'll be using them from other ribbons. But the name manager, define names, and create from selections are all things you will be using, very important in chapter 11. We won't be using the formula auditing. We will not be using the calculation options either. The exception is if you're using a different version of Excel or another kind of spreadsheet like open source to do your homework, and then you pull that up in Excel, sometimes it opens up without the calculation options enabled, which means you have to go here to tell it to calculate the spreadsheet in order to get it to work correctly once you pull that spreadsheet up in Excel. Hopefully you won't be doing that, but if you are, you should know about that. We won't be using get external data in this class. We will be using sorting and filtering. We will also be using the data tools, most especially the what if analysis and goal seek. On the what if analysis is what we'll be what we will be using. We will also be using subtotal. Under review, we'll be using protection sheet and protection worksheet. Under view, we will be using the arrange all and the freeze panes, new window, zooming, although there's also a zoom down at the bottom that you can use the zoom there. We won't use these workbook views because we stay in normal view, but you need to know where that is in case Excel accidentally gets into a different view. Then you have to click on the normal view again. And again, like the zoom, there's also a normal view down here at the bottom of the screen where you can go into it there, so you don't need to you get to this menu to use it. Obviously, you can use help. There's the little help button. The problem with help, of course, is you have to know what command you're typing in, and if you don't know what you're looking for, you don't know what the command's called, it's hard to get help. But you may use the help function as you go along with the Excel classes. So I think that is all we need to cover right now for the Excel. The next lesson, 9-5A, will cover columns and changing the sizes and entering information and doing a whole bunch of other information, including fill handles and a whole bunch of other things. So thank you for attending to this Excel workshop.